This is Into Math 3rd grade, lesson 18.5. Use line plots to display measurement data. I can use a line plot to display measurement data. Please gather your workbook and a pencil and turn to page 474. We will begin under Build Understanding 1. Kendrick makes candles. He records the number of candles and their lengths in a tally chart. Then he makes a line plot of the data. Let's look at the connected vocabulary up at the top. You have already used number lines. A line plot is a graph that uses marks to record each piece of data above a number line. Okay, so let's take a look at our two graphs. We have the candle lengths in inches graph here. And we notice that if there's a number of inches, that's the measurement. And on the other side, it's the tally. That's the number of candles that are that length. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different measurements. And we have the amount of candles that were that measurement on the other column under tally. Now let's take a look at the line plot. We have a title, Candle Lengths in Inches. And once again, we have the measurements here on the number line. So all of these are the measurements that we saw right here in this graph. So instead of using tally marks like in this graph, they are using X's, and this is what we do in a line plot. So let's take a look at part A. Which candle length does Kendrick make the most often? So most often means that happens the most, right? So I bet you can pause and answer this and come back to check your answer. But when you do, you'll find that it looks like the one that has the most is this one here, which is 2 inches. Let's take a look at the next question. Which candle length does he make only once? So only one time. Well, that's easy to find. We see that there's 1x right here. So he only makes this one once, and that would be 3 inches. Okay, let's take a look at part C. How do you know if there are any candle lengths on the line plot for which no data was collected? Do you see a measurement that does not have an X? I see it too. It's 2 inches, 2 1/4 inch. So there is no X above 2 1/4 inches. So there were no candles with that length. Part D asks, how can you describe the data? So you're welcome to take a look at the data and write down a statement that is true. I'm going to give you one example here. Kendrick makes 21 candles with lengths that are between 1.5 inches and 3 inches. Please turn to the next page, page 475, under Step It Out, Part 2. Bob's Candle Shop sells candle wicks with different lengths. So here we have a line plot where the title says the number of wicks sold from April 7th through the 14th, and it says wick lengths in inches. So it's letting us know the measurements. And we see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different measurements of the wick length. And there's some X's that represent how many candle wicks have that length. So we want to use the line plot to compare the data. Okay, let's take a look at part A. The shortest wick length is blank inches. See if you can find the short wick length in inches. That's right. The shortest one would be 5. That's the smallest wick length, which would be right here. So we can write in 5 inches. Now let's take a look at part B. The shop sold blank of the shortest wick. So we're seeing how many of the shortest wick did the shop sell? Well, we see there was 1, 2, 3, 4. So they sold 4 of the shortest wick. All right, let's take a look at part C. The longest wick length is blank inches. So we go to the end here and we see, yep, it's 6 1/2 inches. Now it asks, part D asks us, the shop sold blank of the longest wick. So we come over to the longest one and we count 1, 2, 3. So they sold 3 of the longest one. Now they're going to ask us in part E to compare the data for the shortest and the longest wicks. The shop sold blank more of the blank wick than the blank wick. Okay, so we know that the shop sold 4 of the shortest wick and the shop sold 3 of the longest wick. So which one's bigger? The shortest one, right? So if they have 4 compared to 3, we're going to find that they sold 1 more of the shortest wick than the longest wick. Great job. Okay, if you would like to go back and rewatch this video, you may do so and pause along the way anytime as needed.